Alright guys, let's again move ahead. So we now know how to calculate speed. But to calculate speed, we need total distance and total time. Now the thing is, we easily know how to calculate the total distance. But what about time? How can we calculate time? So let us see into detail how can we calculate the time. So we know the easiest way to calculate time is using a clock. But previously, the working of our modern day clock, something like our wristwatch or wall clock, is a bit complex. But previously, when there were no such instruments, the way we calculated time using a clock was a bit different. You might have seen a clock which looks something like this. Sorry, something like this. આપણે કોઈ કોઈની પાસે જૂની ઘડિયાળ હોય or maybe even in modern days just for a showpiece, you might have seen some certain watches which look something like this. So આની અંદર શું હોય? So we can say these watches are made up of pendulum, simple pendulum. So let us see what is simple pendulum. So simple pendulum looks something like this. There is a wall where we have freely suspended a string, and a string joder we have kept a ball or an object or an iron piece, whatever we want. We call this bob, B-O-B, bob. Now usually એકદમ rest position માં આવી જાય ત્યારે આ position માં હોય, the one that is seen in this picture. But अगर આપણે એને આ બાજુ પુશ કરીએ, પુલ કરીએ and then just free it, આ બાજુ ખેંચીને એને free કરી દેવાનો. So something like this. It was in the rest position O, then we pulled it towards A and then આપણે એને છોડી દીધો. So what you will observe, that it keeps on moving from A to B, from B to A, from A to B, B to A. A થી B જશે, B થી પાછો A આવશે, પાછો B જશે, પાછો A આવશે. This keeps on moving. ક્યાં સુધી? Until it finally comes to rest. What is that rest position? જ્યાંથી આપણે ચાલુ કરી હતી ને, થોડા સમય પછી પાછું એ જ જગ્યાએ આવી જશે. This position O is called the mean position. This position O is called the mean position. And this type of motion is called a periodic motion, where we can see that the object moves from one position to another, but વારંવાર same position પર વારંવાર જાય છે. This type of motions are called oscillatory motion. શું કહેવાય? This type of periodic motions are called oscillatory motion. And the pendulum is said to have an oscillation from A to B. એ ક્યાંથી એનું oscillation ચાલે છે? તો A થી B oscillate કરે છે. We can say that the pendulum oscillates from point A to point B. And such type of motion are called periodic motion. તો આપણને એમ થાય, but okay, આમાં હું time કઈ રીતે calculate કરી શકું? How can I calculate time? So maybe in your coming standards, you will learn that the time that it takes to move from one point to another point is fixed on the length of the pendulum. આ જેટલી આપણે તમે લાંબી દોરી લીધી એના ઉપર the time of the movement from A to B is fixed. તમારા સિલેબસના પાર્ટમાં નથી, but maybe in your coming standards you will learn how to calculate the time. But this time that the bob takes to move from A to B and B to A is called its periodic time. It's called the time period. આપણે હોય ને કે આપણો period કેટલા મિનિટનો હોય? We say it's of 30 minutes, half an hour. Similarly, the time the bob takes from moving A to B and B to A, આખો ખાલી A થી B સુધી નહીં, A થી B and B થી A, જ્યાંથી સ્ટાર્ટ કર્યું હતું ત્યાંથી જ પાછું આવવાનું. That time is called the time period. So in those previous watches, જે પહેલાની આવી wall clock હતી, something which looked like this, they had a pendulum which we just discussed. Based on the time period, we were able to calculate the time that passed. એક સેકન્ડમાં suppose આને આવતા બે oscillations લાગે. So we can say that when 2 oscillations are complete, we have completed 1 second. So when there are 4 oscillations completed, we can say there are 2 seconds passed, and so on and so forth. But modern days we do not use such type of clocks. We use a quartz clock. You might have heard this term. આપણે જે ઘડિયાળ watch wristwatch પહેરીએ or the wall clocks, they usually have a quartz crystal. What happens in a quartz crystal? Something very near to this, but not exactly. એમાં કંઈ આમથી આમ નથી move થતું, but there are certain oscillations. You will learn maybe in some higher standards what are these oscillations in a quartz crystal. Or even faster, we have digital watches in our smartphones. Smartphones હોય એમાં શું આવે આપણી પાસે? We have digital watch. They will tell us the time directly. આપણે પેલી hour hand, minute hand એવું જોવાની જરૂર ના પડે. They will directly give us the time. So these are different ways in which you can find the time using the older methods and the newer latest technology. So now we know what is speed, what is time. We now also know how to measure time. But what are the units of speed and time? કે ભાઈ ટાઈમનું યુનિટ શું? મારે સેકન્ડ લેવી, કલાક લેવો, મિનિટ લેવી, દિવસ લેવો, મંથ લેવો, year level? What can I take? You can take anything you want. So you might be surprised, seriously? Can I take anything I want? Yes, you can take anything you want. Suppose you want to measure the speed of a motorcycle. You can take the unit as 1 hour. You can take the unit as 1 minute. You can take the unit as 1 second. You can also take the unit as 1 hour. You can also take the unit as 1 year or 1 month. જે ઈચ્છા થાય લ્યો. But what will happen if you take the unit as 1 year? We are traveling our scooter. Say for example, we just traveled 2 kilometers. Let us take another example. Say for example, we traveled 5 kilometers in 10 minutes. આપણે 10 મિનિટમાં બાઇક ચાલુ કરી અને મારા ઘરેથી સ્કૂલે પહોંચી ગયા આપણે. It took me just 10 minutes. But કોઈકને unit લેવું છે 1 year. So what would be my speed? Now we know that speed is equal to total distance divided by total time. Total distance divided by total time. If you take the unit of time as 1 year, what will happen? What would be my total time? Total time કેટલો લાગશે? Okay, total time તો 10 મિનિટ લાગી હતી. So what you will have to do? You will have to convert minutes into years. Minutes ને શેમાં કન્વર્ટ કરવા પડશે? Years માં. કેમ? Because you told that you want to take the unit of time as 1 year. So it is very important for us to know which unit we can take. આપણે લઈ બધું શક્યા, but કયું unit choose કરું? That is a very good question. We know obviously કે ભાઈ હું આ પોઈન્ટ થી આ પોઈન્ટ મારા ઘરેથી આપણે સ્કૂલે જઈએ એટલા માટે મારે કઈ એક વર્ષના યુનિટ ના લેવાય. It makes completely no sense, because what will be the value if you try to convert 10 minutes into years? So I can say that, just to show you the calculation, 1 year has 365 days. Agreed. 1 day has 24 hours. Agreed. 1 hour has 60 minutes. So I can say that in 1 year, I have 365 into 24 into 60 minutes. And we will need a calculator to calculate this value. This will be a very big value. So let us see what is the value shown by the calculator. So we have 365 into 24 hours in a day into 60 minutes in an hour. So we have 5,25,600 minutes. we have 5,25,600 minutes in a year. આ બધી કથા કેમ કરવી પડી હતી? Because we had chosen an invalid unit of time. Not an invalid, but an inappropriate unit of time. Unit તો મારો સાચો જ છે, but according to my situation, my unit was not good. So now if I want to calculate the speed, what would be the unit of speed? Unit is, what is the distance? That is kilometer per year. My speed would be in kilometer per year. That would be nothing but, what is my total distance? So my total distance is 5 kilometer divided by 5,25,600. So what would be my speed? Again, I'll have to do it using a calculator. 5 total distance divided by total time, 5,25,600 minutes. કેટલો ગંદો રિઝલ્ટ આવ્યો આપણી પાસે. Do you know the meaning of this result? No. આ બધું આ તકલીફ કેમ પડી? Just because we chose an inappropriate unit of time. So it is always good to know in which unit we should measure our time. So our nana distance માટે measuring the time in year makes no sense. So what can I measure? It's easy. You can measure it maybe in 1 hour. Even 1 hour is fine. But if the distance is very small, we can say that let me measure the unit of time in minutes. So I can say I traveled 5 kilometers in 10 minutes. That is nothing but 5 kilometer divided by 10 minutes is equal to 0.2 kilometer per minute. આ થોડુંક આપણને સમજાયું યુનિટ આવી, આ થોડીક આપણને સમજાવી વેલ્યુ આવી સ્પીડની. So you can see these both are same. એક્ઝામમાં તમે આ બંને લખો તો બંનેની વેલ્યુ સાચી જ છે. This value is in kilometer per year, this value is in kilometer per minute. So the units that we mention or we take for time are very important to find the unit of speed. Hence, we can take the unit of time as anything we want, but based on the situation, we'll have to select different time units. We can select as kilometer per hour, we can select kilometer per minute, we can select kilometer per second. For example, अगर આપણે સ્કૂટરની વાત કરીએ, a scooter, we would generally prefer if we are talking about a scooter, we know that we cannot travel very much distance using a scooter. So we prefer that the unit of scooter we can take usually as kilometer per hour. But say for example, we are considering the speed of a rocket. Rocket એક કલાકમાં કેટલા કિલોમીટર ટ્રાવેલ કરે? Maybe lakhs of kilometers. So again, if the number gets very high, we can always reduce the time span. So instead of saying like 4 lakhs, it's again a random value, 4 lakhs kilometers per hour, we can say that is almost equal to maybe something like 340 kilometer per second. So number nano થઈ ગયો speed now, but make sure the unit has got changed. It got converted into kilometer per second. So based on a situation for which object you are measuring the speed, it is very important to select the unit. So that is all about considering the unit of time, considering the unit of speed. So based on the unit that you select for time and based on the unit that you select for distance, you will get an appropriate unit of speed. એટલે ખબર ના પડી? Let us see. અગર તમે ડિસ્ટન્સ મીટર્સમાં મેજર કરો છો and time you are measuring in seconds, so the unit of speed would be meters per second, right? Because what is speed? Speed is this distance upon time, total distance upon total time. Total distance શેમાં મેજર કર્યું તમે? તો કે મીટર્સમાં. તો ટોટલ ટાઈમ કેટલો આવશે? seconds ma. So that is unit of speed would be